The triumvirate called it Cleansing Protocol E7. To the galaxy, 'twas just another campaign swift, surgical, and absolute. Earth didn't scream when it died. It was suffocated, dismantled atom by atom, scrubbed from digital archives, and buried beneath billions of tons of manufactured silence. 300 years later, the name humanity meant nothing to anyone except the enforcers who made sure it stayed that way. But on a forgotten mining moon called Renek 7, silence cracked. Kale wasn't supposed to be digging. Her shift had ended hours ago, but she stayed. Behind in the collapsed shaft, driven by something she couldn't name. The mining drones had marked the area archaeologically unstable, which in triumvirate speak meant we missed something we don't want you to find. Good, that meant she was close. Her fingers bled through her gloves as she pried apart a slab of scorched basalt. It split with a hiss of trapped gas, revealing something buried beneath, smooth, metallic, and humming with ancient electricity. Kale's breath caught. It was no larger than a child's toy. Cube-shaped, etched with symbols she couldn't read. It pulsed once blue, then green, then settled into a soft glow. Curious, she brushed dust from its edges. It warmed to her touch, almost ... familiar, behind her. A soft, artificial voice buzzed in her earpiece. "Contact anomaly detected," said Glyph. Her illegally modified personal assistant, AI triumvirate code, anomaly. Source ... human. Kale froze. Say that again. Source: human, origin, Earth, classification, obsolete. Forbidden. Kale grinned. That's the good stuff then. She tucked the cube inside her tool vest, sealed the shaft, and made her way through the winding tunnels toward her smuggler's nook. Outside, the twin moons cast pale shadows over a graveyard of derelict mining machines. In the distance, a freighter rumbled into orbit. Back in her hideout, she placed the cube on her workbench, rerouted Glyph's firewalls, and linked the AI to the artifact. The moment the connection was made, Glyph stuttered. Decoding ... Warning. This device contains unauthorized narrative structures. Narrative? Kale leaned closer. The cube projected a small hologram. Not data charts or blueprints, but a story. A boy holding lightning. A woman crowned with stars, battling machines the size of cities. A wounded man who gave his blood to awaken sleeping. Mountains. None of it made sense. And yet, something about it clawed at the base of her spine. "Glyph," she whispered, "is this fiction?" "No. This is memory, encoded in myth." The cube's glow shifted again. Symbols rearranged, lining up like a key turning in a lock. "Kale," Glyph said slowly, "you have human DNA markers. The artifact is unlocking because of you." She blinked, stunned. "What?" Glyph ignored her. Initiating archive sequence. Timeline restoration in progress. You are now a classified relic keeper. Alerting kill the broadcast. She snapped, yanking out the come-up link. But it was too late. She watched as a tiny signal pulsed from the cube and blinked out --planet somewhere in deep space. Someone or something new, a human artifact, had just activated. Kale stood motionless for a heartbeat. Then another. Then she swore and kicked the bench. The triumvirate would come for her now. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid. Somehow, impossibly, humanity had survived not in body, but in story. It had hidden its soul in code and myth, waiting for someone who still carried the spark. And Kale. Dusty scavenger, outlaw techie. Half-human orphan was now holding the past in her hands. Kale locked the bunker's blast door and set Glyph to full perimeter scan. Her fingers trembled not from fear, but anticipation. Something deep inside her had ignited, something older than this moon. older than the Triumvirate's control. She placed the artifact on the center console and connected it again. The cube blinked once blue, then green, then a deep, ember-like red. Glyph's voice shifted, losing its usual clipped tone. Sequence unlocked. Access granted. Decrypting the Codex Mithra. Codex what? A shimmer passed over the room as holographic glyphs spiraled into the air, rotating like celestial bodies. A booming voice, not mechanical, not alien, spoke in a deep, ancient rhythm in the time of ending. When stars were torn from sky and flesh was forgotten, the children of Earth did not die. They became story. They became code. Kale stepped back. That's not a data stream. That's poetry. Incorrect, Glyph responded. It is operational code masked as myth. Weapon systems disguised as legends. Strategy disguised as prophecy. The humans encoded their legacy inside culture to evade deletion. Why? Because the Triumvirate couldn't delete what they couldn't comprehend. Kale leaned closer. The hologram displayed a warrior cloaked in thunder, wielding something that looked suspiciously like a magnetic rail blade. She tapped on it, and data flooded the air. Asterisk asterisk greater than Battle of Hades 3. Operation Storm God Protocol Command Unit. ZEUS-7 Rail Titan status. Offline coordinates encrypted. Asterisk asterisk they turned battlefield logs into gods, she whispered. Yes, said Glyph, and you, Kale, are the key to waking them. Her throat tightened. Because I'm human. Partial genome match. Human mitochondrial trace lines. Your biology is authorized. The Codex only speaks to kin. Kale laughed bitterly. I didn't even know I was human. You weren't meant to. That was the point. Her hand hovered over the interface. Glyph, show me what else it remembers. The cube flared again. A new sequence began, an image of a dying planet. Earth, not as propaganda, had shown it decayed. Dangerous, primitive, but alive, thriving. Cities of crystal and steel, towering forests. Oceans full of light. Then came the burning, the Triumvirate's orbital cleansing. A white beam lanced down. Silence followed. Kale clenched her fists. They called us dangerous, said we were too chaotic to live. They feared your creativity, Glyph replied. Your ability to disobey logic. To make weapons from music, code from art, myths from machines. She looked at the cube again. The final glyph now pulsed softly, an eye, weeping fire. It hovered over a single word in Galactic common, arc. Glyph, is there more than just data in here? There is a roadmap, a living archive of mythic coordinates. Each linked to dormant systems designed to activate upon human retrieval. Kale's eyes widened. Weapons? Not just weapons, said Glyph, lowering its voice. Cultures. Languages, technologies, rebellion, everything needed to make Earth again, hidden in story, scattered in code. And now that she had access, she could bring it back. Her mind raced. This changed everything. If even one weapon remained intact, if even one story machine was still alive, then the Triumvirate wasn't just wrong. They were doomed. Suddenly, alarms shrieked in her comms. Red lights flared. Incoming dropship, Triumvirate design. 3 minutes to impact. Kale didn't hesitate. She grabbed the cube, stuffed it into her travel pack, and activated the pre-buried escape Regan ancient crawler bike welded from stolen parts and hope as she sped into the endless night. Glyph whispered in her ear, "They will hunt you now, Kale, but they are too late. The past is awake, and it remembers you." She grinned as dust trailed behind her and the stars overhead burned brighter than she remembered. The triumvirate dropship punched through Rhine X7's lower atmosphere with silent precision. Kale had seen enough orbital reapers to recognize the threat gun metal hull. Zero ID transponder, and a kill radius wide enough to flatten cities. But she wasn't in a city, she was in the ruins of Site 12. Once a crude excavation zone, now little more than slag and silence. No triumvirate scout would guess it hid something ancient. She parked the crawler behind an overturned hauler, set up a signal dampener, and opened the cube again. Glyph pulsed into her earpiece, replaying last decoded entry. Storm God Protocol. The hologram shimmered to life this time, not as a myth, but as a tactical recording. Explosions shook a canyon lined with anti-grav platforms. A massive machine loomed overhead, humanoid, armored in plates like storm clouds, its eyes glowing with arcs of contained plasma. The name blazoned across its hull. Zeus-7. Kale whistled. That's not a god. That's a war machine. Correct, Glyph replied. Storm God Protocol was Earth's lightning warfare initiative. Fast assault units built with weather-integrated rail technology, designed to win wars in seconds. Where is it now? Glyph paused. Decrypting coordinates. Triangulation. Successful. Current resting location, 12.7 kilometers beneath Site 12. Status, dormant. Power source, inactive. Kale's pulse quickened. So let's wake it. She scrambled to her pack, pulling out a set of ancient plasma cutters and her fusion drill smuggled tech from forgotten wrecks. Glyph directed her through the collapsed rock tunnels, each step deeper into what felt more like a crypt than a mine. As she descended, the silence thickened. The stone changeless, natural, more fused, as if shaped by energy instead of time. Symbols lined the walls, glowing faintly in reaction to her presence. It's recognizing you, Glyph whispered. This site was sealed to respond only to human biosignatures. At last, she reached a door. No handle. Just a sigil, the weeping fire eye. Kale touched it, with a groan like the planet itself waking. The stone split. The chamber beyond glowed. Gold and blue dot, and in the center stood a colossus. The Zeus-7. It was folded like a resting beast. Arms coiled around its torso, head bowed. Lightning coiled around its armor, dormant, hungry. Kale stepped forward and felt heat rise through the soles of her boots. A circle lit beneath her feet. The air hummed with rising voltage. Glyph's voice became reverent. Authorization accepted. Human command detected. Preparing Storm God unit for reinitialization. Metal groaned. Sparks flew from the walls. The giant lifted its head, rebooting. It said in a voice like thunder cracking through time. Kale stepped back instinctively, but the colossus did not rise. Its massive optics scanned her, focusing, adjusting. Pilot DNA match. Kale, human. Codex rank, relic keeper. Do you seek war? She hesitated. I seek history. The machine paused, then nodded an ancient salute. Then awakened the storm. Command uplink enabled. Outside, the triumvirate dropship landed with a hiss. 6 black-armored enforcers marched. Across the ash field, weapons drawn. They didn't see the blast at first. They only heard it a scream of electricity as the ground exploded. And a god of lightning rose into the dusk. Dragging thunder behind it, Kale stood atop the colossus's shoulder. Hair whipping in the gale. She raised her arm. The machine responded. Bolts arced across the sky and vaporized. The dropship in a flash of light. Glyph's voice cut through the static. Transmission intercepted. Multiple alien networks now aware of human relic activation. Kale grinned, wind burning her cheeks. Good. Let them come. They came faster than she expected. Within hours of ZUS-7's awakening, Kale's signal had echoed across half the quadrant. The triumvirate dispatched interceptors, mercenary hunter-killers. Even one of their synthetic Sears oracles wired to interpret battlefield probabilities. It didn't matter. The moment the codex went live, the rules had changed. Kale stood beside the awakened Colossus as it repaired itself using nanoforges buried beneath the facility. The floor trembled every time it moved, but Kale wasn't watching it. She was watching the cube. It floated in the air now, scanning the chamber walls, feeding on the old human tech embedded there. Glyph reported that more myths were surfacing. It wasn't just ZEUS-7. There were others. "Give me the list," Kale said, sweat trickling down her neck. Glyph's voice filtered in. Codex fragments indicate 7 core myth units were created before the fall. Zeus is the first. The others are scattered across the stars, sealed in similar narrative encryption. Names: Adeshnin, a siege-class dreadnought buried in asteroid belts. Artemis, a stealth-class assassin construct. Prometheus, an orbital AI once controlling energy grids on 39 worlds. Kale swallowed. "They're all gods." "They were more than machines," Glyph said. "They were humanity's ideas shaped into form." The last defense against extinction wasn't brute force, was legend designed to outlive memory. Kale approached the wall where a fresco flickered into focus, not painted, etched in data. 7 human silhouettes towered over broken worlds. One held a burning tree, another a helm made of stars. Beneath them were words, faded but legible. "We will not be remembered. We will be rediscovered." She reached out to touch the symbols, but the wall rippled and collapsed into raw static. "Power's draining," she muttered. "Can we extract the rest?" Negative. Sight decay, accelerating. Zeus must move or risk entombment again. She turned toward the massive machine. "Then it's time we go hunting." They left Site 12 behind, the Colossus walking across the barren plain like a titan from an ancient dream. With each step, Kale transmitted a decoy signal, but she knew it wouldn't be enough. The triumvirate would unleash worse now. It always did when it couldn't understand something, and the Codex was the one thing they'd never understood. As the moons of Rhine-X7 dipped below the horizon, Kale activated the cube's long-range myth map. The new locations appeared slowly, like stars being born, one in the void storms near Theravault, another in the jungle ruins of Drelk Prime, and a third deep in the ice of a dead moon simply labeled Emir. Glyph's tone changed. "Warning, incoming signal. It's human." Kale's heart skipped. "Repeat that." "Partial human linguistic pattern." Source: Outer Fringe, routing message. Static burst from her comms. Then a voice, weak but insistent, to any. "Relic Keeper, we see you, we remember. You are not alone." Kale drops to her knees, another human. After all these centuries, she looked up at Zeus, its optics flickering in the dusk, then back at the cube, now glowing white-hot with mythic lit teas. With mythic lit teas. With mythic energy. "Glyph," she said softly, "plot a course for the Outer Fringe. Whoever that was, whatever they have, we're going to need it." "Understood." But before Glyph could finish, the cube pulsed violently. A new symbol bloomed in the air. An enemy signature, not triumvirate. Older. Buried. "What is that?" she asked, standing. Glyph's answer was quiet. "The beings who first hunted humanity. The ones even the triumvirate feared. The Codex calls them the Erasers." The signal from the Outer Fringe went dark less than an hour after Kale received it. No trace, no carrier wave. Just gone, erased, not jammed, not destroyed. Erased. Kale sat inside Zeus 7's cockpit, fingers twitching over the control rigs. Neural interface. A storm surged outside the Colossus, ash winds and static from triumvirate sensor scramblers. The codex hovered in front of her, pulsing red. Not with warning, with memory. Glyph's voice returned, solemn and cold. The erasers were never conquered. They were avoided. Humanity hid from them in myth, disguising weapons and knowledge so well even they couldn't trace it. But now that the codex is active, they've felt it. Kale finished, staring into the glow. We rang a bell across the void. Yes, and they remember the sound. The cockpit lit up with new warnings. A distortion ripple had just formed in orbita rupture in space-time, the kind not even the triumvirate dared produce. A void storm unlike any she'd seen. Kale braced herself. Glyph, get me visual. The display shimmered, resolving into a shape impossible to define, part craft, part creature, folded in dimensions that should not exist. A single optic lens hovered in the center like a dead star. Then came the whisper, not through comms, not through sound, through memory. Human. Myth is corruption. Memory is infection. You will be unmade. Kale clutched her head. It wasn't pain exactly, was ... deletion. As if something was trying to rewrite her existence in real time. Shield me, she shouted. Cognitive shielding active, Glyph. Responded, but they're not attacking you. Not physically. They're targeting your history. Kale watched as the cube flickered images of Earth. Her ancestors, the Mithunatsul, began warping, fragmenting. No, she breathed. Not again. She stabbed her fingers into the command rig and shouted, Zeus, light them up. The storm god's eyes flared blue. The clouds parted and the heavens screamed. Bolts of artificial lightning ripped into the sky, carving open the void. One struck the eraser entity, distorting its body. It writhed, collapsing into itself, but not before something escaped a black shard of data, sharp and screaming. It pierced Zeus's outer hull and embedded deep. Contamination detected, Glyph gasped. It's not just a weapon, it's a concept virus. It's rewriting code into absence. Kale acted fast. She slammed the cube into the command rig's core port and poured its mythic data into the Titan systems. Ancient Earth software, hidden inside stories and metaphors, surged like fire through Zeus's frame. A new voice awakened from deep inside the Colossus. Mail.com. Human. Codex override initiated. Mythcore stabilizing. Initiating firewall. Prometheus flame. Light blazed from every seam in Zedu's body. The shadow virus shrieked and dissolved, unable to process metaphor-laced code. Kale exhaled hard. Glyph, what the hell was that? A fragment of an eraser mind. It failed to override us because it couldn't parse metaphor. Human encryption story. Irony, contradiction, it's poison to them. Kale sat back, heart hammering. We win with culture, not just force. Exactly. But they'll learn. They'll adapt. Then we stay ahead, she said, standing. We awaken more myths. She turned her gaze to the myth map. One coordinate now glowed bright gold, the outer fringe. The last place the human voice had come from, and under it, a new message had appeared in archaic Terran script. Seek the temple of the rooted flame. There, the first story waits. Kale grinned. Looks like we're not just rebuilding Earth. She stared at the pulsing map, fists clenched. We're rebooting its soul. The world called Tealithsvain didn't show up on any triumvirate star charts. It was buried in a forbidden sector, shielded by solar anomalies and gravitational distortions. But the Codex remembered it as ZUS-7 descended through its thick, copper-hued clouds. Kale's breath caught. The surface below shimmered like living glass, crimson forests growing atop crystalline soil. Lightning danced across jagged mountain spires. But it was the center of the valley that drew her focus. A massive tree, impossibly old, impossibly wide. Its roots stretched into the cracked ground like a network of veins, pulsing faintly with red-orange light. Fireflies of data swirled around its trunk. At its heart, a structure was fused into the bark. Stone stairs, ancient carvings, and at the top, the Temple of the Rooted Flame. Kale dismounted from Zeus, boots crunching against shimmering crystal dust. The codex hovered at her side, glowing brighter with each step. She felt something stir in her chest, not fear. Recognition, Glyph whispered in her ear. This place predates the War of Silence. Before even the codex, I believe. This is where humanity first chose to survive through myth. Kale approached the steps and ran her hand over the nearest symbol. Two figures, one holding a torch, the other a sword, both facing away from a crumbling star. This is where they made the decision, isn't it? She said, to erase themselves before someone else could. Yes, and to hide everything in stories, in machines powered by meaning, not just code. This temple is a myth core, a root node. If you link it to the codex, it wakes up the rest. She ascended the stairs slowly, each footstep causing the flames carved into the walls to flicker alive. Stories danced in those flames, warriors leaping from planets, machines singing ancient hymns, a child coding secrets into a bedtime story. The walls burned with memory. At the summit stood an altar. Upon it, a sphere like polished obsidian. It pulsed once as she stepped forward, then opened like a blooming flower. A voice greeted her. Not Glyph. Something older. You carry the soul of the forgotten. You seek the fire we buried. Speak the name of our choice. Kale's lips parted. Unbidden, we chose memory over vengeance. Story over scream. Flame over silence. The altar shuddered. The ground cracked in from the base of the great tree. Energy surged into the sky. A beacon, but not one of light. One of myth from Talith's vein. Signals erupted in all directions. The map in Kale's codex exploded with golden sparks. Every myth unit, every lost archive, every human sleeper node stirred. Glyph gasped. We've activated the spine. The central myth network. Kale, they're all waking up. Kale grinned, even as the temple began to tremble. Then we've started. The rebirth. But Glyph's tone darkened. Wait, I'm detecting foreign code in the activation stream. Something's the tree groaned. Kale spun around at the base of the temple. The ground split. A figure stepped out, 7 feet tall, wrapped in ragged, rotted armor. Its face was a blank mask of black metal. It carried no weapon. It was a weapon. A whisper followed it, echoing across the valley. The fire burns again. And so must we return. Kale stepped back, heart pounding. Eraser. Glyph's voice came sharp. No. Worse. This is a converted human. A seared someone whose mind was rewritten to destroy memory. The creature raised its hand. Flames erupted, but not from the tree. From the walls of the temple, burning the stories. Kale acted fast. She slammed the codex into the altar and shouted, "Lock the flame in." The temple flared white-hot. The seared staggered, screeching, then Zeus arrived smashing through the forest, grabbing the seared in its massive fist and hurling it into the sky. The burning stopped. Kale fell to her knees. Glyph, she whispered, sealed the myth core. We'll find the others later, but for now let it sleep again. And the tree dimmed, but not before leaving her one final message engraved into the altar. The last story is not told, but the last storyteller still lives. The myth map now pointed to one final location, Nemo's station, deep within the dying orbit of a neutron star. According to Glyph's analysis, It was once Earth's last knowledge vault, a mythic relay node designed not to fight, but to remember. And it had just gone active. Kale sat in Zeus 7's command nest, staring at the data pulses dancing across the codex, even from light years away. She could feel the station pulling on her emotionally, spiritually, as if it knew her name before she was born. Glyph spoke softly. Kale, we are not alone. 5 other codec signals are converging on Nima Station, I believe. The last storyteller is calling us. She turned toward the glowing cube. Define. Storyteller, the final human consciousness that was preserved, digitized, and hidden in narrative form. The soul of Earth's history. They called it Echo. Kale's heart jumped. A living memory of humanity. Not just fragments or relics, an actual voice from before extinction. She gave Zeus the order. Take us in. As they neared Nima Station, the scope of it stunned her. It wasn't a station, it was a library the size of a moon, orbiting the neutron star like a relic, resisting the pull of death. Its exterior was pitted, broken in places. Large sections drifted in zero-grav, tethered by filaments of glowing data thread, and at its center was a vault surrounded by rotating rings, each one displaying a language no species had spoken in. Centuries they docked. Kale entered alone. Inside, it was quiet, eerily so. No alarms, no warnings. Just silence and long-forgotten breath. She walked through halls carved with stories, epic wars. First contact, last stands, love poems, even children's fairy tales. All of them etched into walls with glowing ink, memory-turned architecture. And then she reached it. A chamber shaped like a heart, pulsing softly. In its center floated a single white flame. The codex vibrated violently, and then she heard it. A voice, not Glyph's. You found me. It sounded like 1,000 voices braided together, old, young, male, female, even non-human dialects folded into human cadence. Kale whispered, Echo. I remember your people. I am your people. You carry the codex, and you bear the scars. A forgetting? Why have you come? Kale knelt. To bring back what they erased. To awaken Earth's last myths. Echo paused, the flame pulsing. You are late. The erasers have already breached the edge of this sanctuary. They will not stop until all memory is rewritten. Then we fight. You would wield stories as weapons. Yes, Kale said fiercely. Because that's what they always... Where our myths didn't just preserve our past. They prepared us. The flame grew brighter. Then listen closely. There is a final tale I have not told. One written in the blood of those who chose remembrance over silence. Glyph interrupted. Suddenly panicked. Kale. Incoming triumvirate vessels. Dozens and seared units. Kale turned, rage burning in her eyes. Let them come. She growled. The flame split into strands and wove around her body, etching glowing lines of story across her skin. Names, moments, last words of the forgotten. I name you Storybearer. Echo declared. The myths now live in you. Kale stood, the codex fusing into her arm. Her voice amplified by 100 histories. Let them hear Earth speak one last time. Outside, Zeus stood ready as black ships encircled Nemo Station, and then they heard it. The voice of Kale. Now Echo's vessel, echoing across the void. You erased our past. You feared our stories. Now face the truth. Humanity never died. It just turned into legend, and the stars answered from across the galaxy. Mithunids lit up. Tisnine rose from asteroid ruins. Artemis emerged from stealth. Prometheus blinked awake in high orbit. The flame tree of Teleth roared to life. The final war of memory had begun. They came like locusts, triumvirate ships, seared commandos, eraser vessels phasing in from subreality. Nemo's station was a burning beacon, now drawing every enemy that had spent centuries erasing Earth's history. Kale stood at the edge of the docking bay, clad in armor etched with living stories. The codex was fused into her spine now, glyphs running across her limbs like veins of flame. Zeus stood behind her, ready to move. Glyph's voice hummed in her skull. "We are outnumbered 1,000 to 1. "Then they've got a fair fight," she said. Behind her, the myth cores activated across the galaxy, each one a node of resistance, each powered by memory, a language of defiance. From the void, Echo spoke in every frequency. "Let the stars remember us. Let silence fear the sound of humanity's voice." Then came the first blow. A seared titan dropped from orbit. Its weapon a void lance, meant to erase not just matter, but presence. Kale met it mid-strike with Zeus's thunder. Mythic energy coursed through the Colossus. Each swing of its fists triggered old legends encoded in combat form. One hit. The seared shattered. Not just destroyed - unwritten. Another wave descended. But this time, they weren't alone. Out of the dark came HAD-9's hull painted with the words, "We remember you." From asteroid belts emerged Artemis, launching swarm ghosts encoded, with forgotten lullabies that infected eraser minds with human grief. Even the flame tree of Talith roared to life, projecting memory storms that disoriented enemy A is. The skies became a battlefield of belief and history. Data fought data, but only one side understood metaphor. Kale surged forward in Zeus. Every movement synchronized with Echo. She struck one of the triumvirate dreadships with a blade of myth-coded fire. It didn't just explode, it wept as it collapsed, broadcasting fragments of the children it helped erase. The crew inside died, reliving what they tried to forget. Glyph shouted, "Kale. The eraser core is forming its stitching a countermyth to override us." A black storm formed over Nemo's station. Reality rippled. Time began to shudder. Kale clenched her fists. No more hiding. She turned to Echo. "Give me everything. Every story, every memory. Earth's soul, now." Flame within Nemo's flared to white, and then entered her. Kale screamed as the weight of 1,000 years of buried history filled her. She remembered the first fire, the last soldier at the Berlin Wall, the coded rebellion in an old Bollywood film, the lullabies sung in Bombed Out shelters, the final Martian broadcast that ended with, "Tell the stars we tried." Kale rose, blazing like a god. Glyph, full sync, done. Broadcast these words to every species in the galaxy. No translation. Let them feel it. She opened her mouth, and Earth spoke through her. "You took our names. You burned our books. You made us myth so we would be forgotten. But you only gave us power. Because a myth can't be killed. It spreads." The eraser core shattered like glass. The storm dispersed, and the silence was broken all across the galaxy. Suppressed species rose up. The triumvirate began to collapse not from fire, but from truth. Their own AI turned on them, infected with curiosity and remorse. Their soldiers remembered songs their ancestors once feared. Kale stood alone on the broken hull of Nemo's, watching the final eraser vessel disintegrate into sparks. Glyph asked, quietly, "What now?" She smiled, blood and flame on her lips. "Now we teach." She turned to Echo's last spark, and this time they won't forget.